Bobby, who is Pam Cox on Dewey Avenue?
Pam, she volunteers here.
She used to work. Yeah.
She sent me a nice card. Okay.
You know her.
She's on that walkers, on that rolliator all the time.
I got you.
Sits on the front porch.
When I saw it, I said,
Yeah.
I know she's not a cop.
Right.
And
No, no kids. No relation. Oh, I will. But no, she's on, I think, Matt Cox.
I heard you have Mr. Juries.
This makes you not even want to turn it on. Daily politics briefing. Did you see that?
Democrats.
Democrats prepare a long shot plan for debt ceiling increase. I did, but I didn't have to.
You didn't go by?
Hey, Kevin, would you mind pulling that over? Just put it right in front of you. You won. Thanks. Alan may make some snide comments. I want to make sure I see him. Huh?
I said, if you want to talk to me, just have me send a message.
Yeah, and so is the pod. They drill a hole in the pod. Perfectly good pod.
Hey, it ain't no good guys got a hole in the pot.
We talked about J.B. Weldon.
Yeah, you could do that.
Regular shop, I got a little welder.
Vicky, Jennifer not coming?
She wasn't feeling good.
Is Jennifer not coming?
All right, well, let's get started then if y'all want to. Call the board meeting to order. Let the record show that all aldermen are present except for Alderman Burgess. Ms. Papania will lead us in the invocation and Mr. Blackman in the pledge. Please stand.
We would bow our heads, please. Lord God in heaven above, we thank you for this great day, this great Ocean Springs Day. We thank you for a community of involved, caring citizens. And may we tonight make the right decisions to continue our future and our growth here in Ocean Springs. We offer our prayers to the people who have suffered across this nation from violence. May you be with them, and may you see about them and their families. God bless us all. God be with us all. For all these things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
By Mr. Anthony, second by Mr. Cox. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Tonight we have a couple of we got one presentation, a couple of proclamations. First we'll go with the presentation. We have the Friends of the Mississippi Vietnam Memorial Park with us. You come to the podium and
Mayor, I asked this to be put on there. Wanted to recognize these guys for what they do and how they stepped up to the plate and really made a difference out there at the. It's actually the Mississippi Friends of the Mississippi Veterans Memorial Park because there are multiple monuments out there now. So this is Mr. Don Northcutt who's going to give a little rundown.
Thank you.
thank you.
I am Don Northcutt. I'm president of the Friends of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Veterans Memorial Park. And we are a nonprofit 501c3 corporation, recently incorporated because, frankly, the original nonprofit that created the monument, they died. It's been a long time. And so we saw a need for a new organization, a new group of people to come in to maintain, improve, and expand perhaps the memorials out there. There on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, There are over 660 names and most of the photographs. We're missing about 10 of the photographs. And that is our project number one, is to get that completed. And the photographs are available in Washington, D.C. at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, which created the wall in D.C. I have some of the board with us tonight. Would you like to stand? We have Steve Rice, Dane Reed, who's our treasurer, Mariel Margario, who is our vice president. We got Bob Harwood and Herb Edmonds. So we've got most of the services connected or represented, and we look forward to moving together and bringing other members of the community onto our board, because we're not going to be here forever. And so we need new blood from the community to join in and help us complete our goals and our mission. And we're proud to be here in Ocean Springs and represent veterans from across the state. I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you'll excuse us, we'll leave because we each have different 7 o'clock meetings.
Well, yeah, y'all have done a great job out there, and we appreciate that. And I know Harwood better be around here for a little longer, because I know how old he is, and I don't plan on not being around here for a little longer. So anyway, thank you. Appreciate it.
We ride with Mayor, one thing that they've pressed on doing here, as they're leaving, I'll let you know, with the help of Representative Zuber, Camp Shelby is going to be donating a Vietnam-era tank to put out on the site. And we hope to put it up towards the front of the site to get a little more visibility to the park. That's something I'll be getting with you all in the future.
We have 2 proclamations. First one is for National Safe Voting Week, and you've all been watching the news. There's been some horrific accidents, so this is kind of fitting for this time. National Safe Voting Week. National Safe Voting Week is observed to reinforce awareness and attention to important life-saving procedures so recreational voters can be safe and have enjoyable on-the-water experiences throughout the year. Whereas, on average, 650 people die each year in voting-related accidents in the U.S., of which 75% of those are fatalities caused by drowning. And whereas the majority of these incidents are not caused by the vote, equipment, or environmental factors, but by human error and or poor judgment. Whereas a significant number of recreational voters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they taken appropriate safety precautions and worn their life jackets. And whereas we recognize the goals of the National Safe Voting Campaign by proactively supported by the United States Coast Guard Station, Pascagoula, Flotilla 38 of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary, and our Mississippi Shipbuilding and Maritime Center in the interest of promoting recreational voting safety. And therefore, I, Kenny Holloway, Mayor of the City of Ocean Springs, do hereby support the goals of the National American Safe Voting Campaign and proclaim May 20th through 26th, 2023, National Safe Voting Week throughout Ocean Springs to reinforce awareness and attention to the important life-saving skills that can provide our recreational boarders with the knowledge and safely enjoy their voting experience throughout the Mississippi Gulf Coast region. Into this proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll let you say a little word after she takes out. Like to say a few words? Oh, okay.
Much better, too. Other than I'd like to introduce folks in first class. Winston Shepard of Pascagoula Station, and Patty Brooks with the Maritime Shipbuilders and Maritime Center, who is in the
Thank you.
Chief Dustin, you want to come up?
I think we see them sitting over there.
Before I get started, Chief Dustin got a hole in one last week.
Yeah.
196 yards. 193. 193 yards, 6 iron, in the hole. This is Boy doesn't have one. This proclamation is for the 2023 Peace Officers Memorial Day and Police Week. Whereas by resolution of the United States Congress on October 1, 1962, the President of the United States has been authorized and requested to designate May 15th of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls as National Police Week. And whereas we solemnly acknowledge our debt to those who have lost their lives in the line of duty, extending our prayers and gratitude to those officers and their families. And whereas we wish to express our gratitude to all law enforcement officers in the city of Ocean Springs and throughout the United States for their commitment to justice and to their communities. Whereas we recognize the dedication of the Ocean Springs Police Department to serve Ocean Springs citizens and visitors by preserving peace in our communities, safeguarding precious life and personal property, and protecting against violence, disorder, and oppression. Whereas across the nation, Police Week is observed with ceremonies including the hanging of blue bows and ribbons to honor our law enforcement officers who have sacrificed their lives in the line of duty to honor those who still strive to keep us safe. And whereas the officers of the Ocean Springs Police Department are committed to supporting the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Mississippi, and the ordinances of the City of Ocean Springs, and do hereby the laws thereof. Now, therefore, I, Kenny Holloway, Mayor of the City of Ocean Springs, call upon all citizens of this city and upon all patriotic, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 14th through 20th, 2023 as Police Week, commemorating police officers past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves the enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call all citizens of the City of Ocean Springs to observe May 15, 2023 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, to honor those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, lost their lives or have become disabled in the performance of duty. Hold on. Item 4 on the agenda is public hearings. We have 2 of them, I believe. First one is to request approval of a zoning change by ordinance adoption from the R2 low-medium density single-family residential district to the R3 medium-density single-family residential district on the northwest corner of Groveland Road and Dena Road, parcel number 6012304.000. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
Make a motion to open public hearing.
By Mr. Cox.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Carolyn, you want to explain?
Yeah, this is the property there at the corner of Groveland and Dena. It's an undeveloped property on the northwest corner. The request, as you stated, was to change it, still keeping it single family, but it would slightly increase it in density from a low medium to a medium density, still single family. After the applicant has prepared a report that is in your folder there, and I believe Donovan's here. I know he'd be here somewhere, to go over this with you. But during the public hearing held with the Planning Commission, the last month, the commissioners did consider everything that was presented and did make the recommendation to approve the rezoning due to both a change in the character and a public need for that type of zoning district.
Okay.
So it's here before you to be considered. And
Donovan, you have anything?
Add anything that you would like.
Good evening, I'm Donovan Sprust, I drive here in Ocean Springs. Good news for you guys. I left the house up in Jump Drive, so we don't do the presentation tonight. I apologize for that.
Rats.
The property that Carolyn mentioned is at the corner of Groveland and Dana Road. And I can give you a long history of this, but really in a nutshell, what's interesting is that all the way from 4 or 5 estates, all the way to Parktown was at one time zone R2. Through the years, this area has systematically and just continuously been rezoned to higher density districts. In fact, this property right here and Gilliman Park are the only 2 properties that really maintain this R2 zoning. Waterford Village was rezoned to R4. Clear Springs was rezoned to CMX1. Of course, you've got the apartments that are further down. All of these have been rezoned from the R2 district to a much higher density district. And as a result, we've got much smaller lots. There was some discussion, about property values and small lots somehow mean you're going to have less property values. And, what I did in the report is looked at the property values of the surrounding areas, and the biggest lots are actually the ones that are about the cheapest. I mean, the houses that are all older lots and are bigger properties really are far below the resale value of those within Waterford Village or Clear Springs or even Baywood. Those areas have really done a good job at holding the values and actually improving it. And if you want to talk about changing neighborhood character, once again, you go to the apartment complex, the sales that just that's being in the process of being constructed right now or being open right now, all of which is more intense zoning. So really, I think that the change in neighborhood character for this area is really overwhelming. And I think it would be, I would like if you guys follow the Planning Commission approval and recognize made this ordinance change. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have so that I can go through 7 or 8 pages of this report before you guys get to
Anybody have any questions for Donovan? Good. Is there anyone here who would like to, from the public, would like to speak for or against the rezoning request? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Mayor.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve or deny?
I've got a couple of things I'd like to discuss before we do that.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to the rezoning in principle, but this area, I know the Dina Road project should have been underway by now. Unfortunately, there was a delay in some of the county portion of the funding. Hopefully that will be underway later this year. And Sarah, do we not have a sewer project affecting that area soon? Aren't they rerouting a force main in that area, or no?
It's a little further down.
It's a little further down. Will it affect that area? I was just wondering, that's been the big concern from some of the residents and my constituents out in that area was the ability of the infrastructure to support additional, in addition to the apartments, another subdivision. I don't know if you've got any input on.
We're actually, the force main you're talking about is the extension off of 68.
Okay.
That one will actually be out of service once the east side diversion project gets completed. So there'll be capacity once that project happens. There's probably capacity now, but there'll definitely be capacity when that happens.
Probably, but, okay.
And that would be before any project could get started on this property. That's going to happen well before the property gets developed regardless. So.
Okay. Well, okay, the sewer project.
Yeah.
I don't know about Dina.
Well, that's
a separate issue.
Yeah.
We're probably looking at funding for Dina to come through after the county does their budget and approves that. So late in the year, early next year.
Fiscal year also. Okay.
So there's a motion to approve or deny the zoning?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve request of zoning change for ordinance adoption from R2 low medium density single family residential district to R3 medium density single family residential district for PIDN number 601-230-40.000.
Got a motion by Mr. Blackman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Aldermen. Any further discussion? Need a roll call?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1. The next item is a draft ordinance consideration for adoption and amendment to the zoning regulations for residential short-term rentals. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Aldermen, second by Mr. Wade. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Carolyn?
What you have here, we did briefly discuss at the last meeting, but it was presented to the Planning Commission at their last meeting. The modifications that you have shown in your packet, the primary one that I want to point out is the creation of what we're calling a density zone for short-term rentals, and basically I want you to think of that as like dual control for your air conditioner in your car so that you can control the site separately. As the short-term rental ordinance took place and over the last 5-8 years, however long it's been in effect, the natural developing pattern was this density zone has at least half of what the total city has. So it is a higher density, as you would expect, more in the western part in the areas in and around the downtown area where it's walkable. So what we'd like to do is to maintain that proportion and create that density zone, increase the cap accordingly, where you would, within that zone, you would have 50 allowed and 65 through the rest of the city for a total of 115, which is an increase from the 75 citywide that we have now. That will accommodate most of the waiting list, not the entire waiting list, and most of those accommodated on the waiting list would be located in the density zone. Another aspect that you have in your ordinance is the currently existing downtown overlay district, which is a small area on the north and south of Government Street, right there at the top, and there's a graphic of that in the ordinance. There are 10 properties, six that were existing and 4 that were on the waiting list that are residentially zoned, and those would just no longer be under the cap. They would still follow the same process as a residential short-term rental, but they wouldn't count against the cap. That way, that area, which has already been designated as a downtown area, would be able to have that density as well. Those are the primary things that we wanted to point out. We also did modify some of the language related to the local property manager to allow businesses to serve as the local property manager as long as they had a brick and mortar office within that 2-mile district. Some people have created their own businesses in order to do this, and also some smaller businesses. So as long as there is a local presence, someone that lives, works in the area, that accommodates the spirit of what the original intent was. Also, there's some minor modifications to the language regarding covenants and HOAs. The fee schedule, if you recall, at the last meeting we did increase the fees to $500 for application and $500 for renewal, so that's already been accepted by you all. So the change in the ordinance just takes out the dollar amount and refers to the most recently adopted fee schedule. And that's pretty much the,
Carolyn, may
Yes,
I ask you a
Yes.
question? The modifications to the HOA and covenants,
Mhm.
can you give us a rundown on that?
yeah, basically, it just referred to, instead of just having them notify us if there is an existence of an HOA, they have to notify us if there is existing covenants. And that way we can look and see the exact nature of those covenants. If they've been filed, we can look at them that way and then take it on a case-by-case basis, depending on what those covenants say. So it just adds the word covenants in there and requires them to provide that
And that's the
document to
applicant.
us. The applicant has to, and we can also do a search and see if it's filed, but beyond that, it just requires them to give us covenants rather than previously it just required them to notify us if there was an existing HOA.
So the other question I have is on the overlay.
Yes.
The overlay district is basically going to be treated as basically a commercial zone. So why are we
as far as the
making them?
cap?
Why are we going to make them go through the whole process of approval if it's already going to be allowed in the overlay?
Well-
We're kind of adding a step to this that I think we could do away with. If
Well,
it's going to
the
be in the
intent-
overlay, it's allowed.
Well, the intent is allowed. It's allowed. It's not that it's an automatic approval or anything. It just is not counted against the cap. And that was really when we were looking at density, not so much as far as the process. If the property is zoned residential, many times it does have residential abutting it. And so it still functions as a residential even if it's in a denser area of commercial activity. So we didn't want to take away the residential identity of it, simply allow that area to be dense without having the cap, be penalized by the cap. That was the intent of it, not to change the nature of the application process.
So it'll have to go through the approval process, and once approved, it just won't count against the cap.
Correct. Correct. Yep.
Well, let me ask you this, what kind of timeline are we looking at? Because there's some, rumor, I guess, that they said it could take like 7 months to get these people in the list through the queue, and, that's a little bit much.
Well, and that's when we had like 40 in the waiting list, and it just takes time to go out and inspect them and process them all. We would take those that were ready first, and the way I look at it, again, analogies, is those that don't fit under the cap it's like a fast pass. We would go ahead and take them first. They don't have to wait.
So the downtown overlay district would go first?
We would probably take them first and then work our way down both the density zone and the rest of the city. Again, it's going to be dependent upon who's ready. It's not just the holding of the public hearing. Building department has to go out and do an inspection, and we have to process the paperwork. We try not to put more than like 5 or 6 on a planning commission meeting at a time, but we'll do them as quickly as possible.
And we do that for commercial zones also.
Commercial zones just don't have to go through a public hearing. We still have to do the inspection and the paperwork, but they don't go through a public hearing. So we still have those going on in the background as well.
So you really feel like that's necessary to go through that public hearing for this overlay district? I mean, it's just kind of add more work on you, add more work on the
I
planning
would like
commission.
to see that. I would like to see that scratch from it.
That's definitely something that we'll look at. I mean, even if we approve it now as is, we can bring back a modification that modifies the process.
I don't like approving as is and then try to modify it. We need to get it right now. Let's make our adjustments and vote on it and be done.
That would be a substantial change. I'm pretty sure we'd have to re-advertise, so, because you're changing the process of approvals. And so we can take it out of the cap. I can bring back an ordinance for the next meeting to modify the approval process.
That'd be the quicker way to go.
How many right now are in the overlay district that you know of, off the top of your head?
Existing 6, and I think 4 were on the waiting list.
So you think we've got to get them taken care of in the next month?
As long as they are ready, and we'll do those first. Anything that's not affected by the cap, we do first.
Yeah, maybe that's what we need to do.
Well, I've got another question for you, or just a statement pretty much on my part. I represent this whole city, and I've let it be known to you and anybody that's asked me about this density zone. I don't approve of it. I don't agree with it. I feel like the 115 should be across the city as a whole, and everybody treated as one. We don't need to add a whole nother process, a whole nother section. We're just making this whole thing more complicated than it needs to be. Have your 115 cap. Let's go with the overlay district. That will bring in the ones that are there and move forward. So that would probably be a substantial change to this also. But so my motion, if I was to make one, I know we're in public hearing and I can't, but it would be to do away with the density zone and to make that adjustment on the other.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak for or against the short-term rental ordinance?
My name is Mark Garrett. I live down the street.
What's your address, Mark?
I got a couple of them.
Just
Which one?
primary, where you sleep at night.
705. Hey, all right. I just heard about the short-term thing last time I was here. I mean, I stopped tonight and looked at the agenda. That's why I came. Because last time I was at one of the meetings, they said, hey, we've got a couple of people on the waiting list. We're going to go ahead and just stop the waiting list. So I don't know if they started the waiting list back up. I wasn't aware. Now I hear that there's whatever. I don't know how we keep like bending over backwards and for boutique hotels and all this different kinds of stuff. Developers, hey, let's go ahead and make it where they can fit even more houses. I just saw right down Florida, they got houses on top of each other. I mean, we're doing all kinds of stuff like this for folks who got money, and then folks who it's just their house or their mom's house or whatever, and they're thinking they're going to make a little extra money on the weekends. We don't really have enough space for them right there. So, I mean, I live in a quiet little neighborhood. We're about to do a whole big, the new Manhattan development down there. Talk about change in the neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff. That's what's going to happen. That's going to change the neighborhood. Somebody making a little extra money on the weekend. That's not doing anything. So I don't see how there even is a cap. The people, you're saying the people who were smart enough or lucky enough or knew that there was about to be something, those people got in early. Those are the good people. Those people are set, and then everybody else just has to wait till y'all out 30 other spots or something like that. So I think that's a good idea. Throw in, let's make a motion just to do away with the amount of number, you know what I mean, and then let it do its thing. Because we're all paying property tax, a good amount of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak?
Good evening, everybody. Francisco Ferrero, 32 Embroidery Street, Sayreville, New Jersey. I was here a couple months back, Mayor. I don't know if you recall. We actually got this little talk started. I totally agree with the gentleman that just came up here. I think Ocean Springs got a great plan in effect and has been doing very well with its Airbnbs. From my knowledge, I think you've been doing this 7 years, and these 7 years you've had one incident where police was called for something. That's a great track record. Like everything in this world, you got to weigh the pros and cons with every decision you make. I 100% wholeheartedly feel that the pros completely outweigh any cons you could come up with in the situation for the Airbnbs. I'm glad you're here at the point where you're going to increase or possibly increase the numbers. I think they should be increased a little bit more. That's why I first came here to the meeting 6 months ago and asked you about that. Think the Airbnbs, for example, they create a whole extra economy for your residents. I use a local property manager, just puts, a few extra dollars on their table in their household. Local lawn guide, local pool guide. The guests that stay here spend money locally, restaurants, entertainment, and things like that. So that's all great. That's all an economic boost, and that's what tourism in the tourist city is all about, which what the Ocean Springs wants to be. But furthermore, and I think the most important part is, I own 3 properties on Booth Circle. 3-bedroom houses and a 4-bedroom house. If I don't Airbnb these houses, I'm gonna rent them out to tenants. These tenants are definitely gonna have children. I'm assuming the local property taxes are shared with the school board. What I'm getting at with that is, in a regular tenant situation, I will be a burden. My houses will become a burden. Not a burden, but, extra money's into the school board. And little by little, that's the stuff that kind of raises taxes, because you gotta supply the school board with their budget. Airbnbs don't create that for you. None of the people staying at Airbnb houses are gonna go to the schools here. So I think that's a huge plus with the Airbnbs if I put myself in the feet of a city. That's pretty much what I have to say on that. The only part is just a quick question. I can't see the meetings on video anymore. Are you still doing video recordings of all the meetings? Yeah, because I know they changed the website, and I looked around for the video, but I can't find it anywhere.
Well, if you don't look on the website, you can always look on our YouTube channel. They're always there.
Okay, before it was real easy on the website, boom, you click the video. Okay, appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else in the public who would like to speak?
Good evening. Like a bad pity.
Sorry?
Like a bad pity.
It's a good thing. But I am Donovan Scruggs again, through 700. Bobby, I do agree with what you and Ricky both said with the downtown overlay district. If you guys recall, just a couple of weeks ago, you adopted a brand new redevelopment district, or redevelopment maps. And within those maps, you identified basically the overlay district. And in that overlay district and the things you adopted, you refer to this as a commercial property. So if you want to designate this downtown overlay district as primarily commercial in nature, then what we're asking for is to make the properties within the downtown overlay district allow by right. Treat them as commercial properties with the short-term rental ordinance. Now, short-term rental, as y'all define it, is still a residential use. It's allowed in R1. It's allowed in, some of your nicer subdivisions here in Ocean Springs. So to say that it's not residential or by allowing this to go by right in a residential area is going to change the character of that neighborhood, then the ship's already sailed. We're already doing that all over town. I do think that allowing those by right in the downtown overlay district will cut down time. It will encourage growth, and it will encourage these short-term rentals in an area that really is where they need to be. They are going to be basically a block off Government Street or a block away from Washington Avenue. That's where you want them. And I believe anything we can do to encourage it and not create more work for the planning department would be a step in the right direction. So I don't see it as a substantial change. We're talking about adding or removing one word from one section in this whole 4 or 5 page ordinance. It's not a substantial change. The overlay, the short-term rental intensity district, that may be a substantial change, as Carolyn pointed out. But I think to remove the restriction or the requirement that this property goes to a public hearing process for this one line in one section is not a substantial change. And if you feel as though it is a substantial change, then I would recommend that you table it and bring it back up at the next meeting. 2 weeks is a lot better than having to go through another 6 months of trying to get this thing right again. I believe the modifications can be made pretty quickly and can be presented to your next meeting for adoption. So I'd rather you get it right than to adopt it now with any kind of reservations or hopes that it's going to be brought back soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is anyone else who'd like to address the board?
Hello. My name is Jessica Fonte, and I'll give you my address. Okay, 20, Fonte, 2721 North 6th Avenue in Ocean Springs. I'm a local property manager here on the coast, primarily for Ocean Springs as well. And a big thing that I wanted to kind of reiterate, like they said, it brings in a lot of business. I use nothing but, local vendors, local furniture places, things like that. And so I want to kind of reiterate how much, I guess, money is going back into, these homes from local places that are in the area, not necessarily, ordering furniture on, Ashley's. And I know this kind of scales really into it, but, with short-term rentals in Ocean Springs, if there is not necessarily any places to stay, or it's, permitted with certain areas and so, certain amount of homes you can have on at a time, 115 at a time, like they're going to start going to, different cities and hotels and Biloxi's right across the, the bridge. And not trying to throw that in there, but it is, I'm filling in a lot of houses. I'm filling a lot of reoccurring, customers that come back to the coast to stay specifically in those same houses to, go to the local restaurants. And, I give out welcome packets that have, local businesses and just advertisement and things that really try to drive the business into the city. And so I definitely agree with the cap on the houses. I mean, the more the merrier. But again, that's my opinion, and I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So,
Motion by Mr. Aldermen, second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve or deny? Or you want to have some comments?
I'd like to say something.
Okay.
I respect what everybody requested tonight about not wanting to put a cap on it, but I don't believe there's any city across the Gulf Coast that has an ordinance that has a open, you can do it anywhere. I think that maybe one day one could get there, but I think that with the growth and the pattern that I've seen since I've been involved on the VRBOs or the STR since Planning Commission, and Rob can attest, he was on it too. We made it a long way where we are today, and it takes a lot of managing. And if we just throw it out there like there is no cap, we're not going to be able to manage it. And so we're working our way towards something. I don't know what that something is, but we've made it a long way. And I just want y'all to know that I just don't think right now is the time to just put a zero cap on it. It's just my opinion.
I feel like you're right, Ricky. I think we did talk about that at one time, going ahead and doing away with the cap. But I feel at this time we need to hold tight. But I really personally feel like the density zone is not the way to go. I feel like the cap needs to just be across the city. Y'all did get me convinced with the overlay district, so that 1 out of 2 I will go with. But personally, I'd like to see us table this till the next meeting, and let's get this right and bring it back up for a vote. I think Donovan was correct. I'd rather see 2 weeks rather than 2 months to get this done. So if y'all agree with me, that's what I'd like to see done.
A second, if that's your motion.
Yeah, that's a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cox. You second, Ricky?
Yeah.
Second by Mr. Aldermen. Any discussion amongst the board?
Explain your motion again.
Just to table it for 2 weeks, we'll get this drawn out, drafted to where the overlay district is not to where they have to go through a hearing process for our next meeting. Yeah.
But nothing about, but just you leave the zones in place is basically.
Personally, I'd like to pull the zones out. That's something I'd like for us to talk about, and just have a 115 cap across the board.
Okay. But you'd rather do that later?
I'd rather let's do this first and get in 2 weeks, let's adopt and then move forward.
So you want to adopt in 2 weeks concerning the overlay district only?
Overlay district
okay.
only.
So you're saying bring it back in 2 weeks, the only change being to that overlay district with the process?
Yeah.
And you can extend the cap to 115.
Okay. So everything else is the same. So what if I just want to make sure I'm understanding
In 2 weeks, we want an overlay district where you do not have to go through the hearing process.
So we'll bring back the same thing with that portion is modified.
And then with a 115 cap instead of the 75 and no density zones.
So your proposal was to go to 100 cap, right?
Well, the Planning Commission approved 115.
The Planning Commission increased it to 115, but they were in favor of the density zone. And just something to think about one of the concerns we have is when this discussion started and we had this big influx of people putting on the waiting list, they were all in some of the more outer areas where people were buying at maybe less expensive homes for that purpose, and that was not the trend that we wanted to encourage.
I think we addressed a lot of that with the rate increase, and I think that will manage itself out. So that's my motion, and Ricky, you second that motion?
Yeah, we got a motion and a second. Ken, I know you've got some concerns about location of these short-term rentals.
Well, I have. And I've heard a lot of what folks have said tonight. Folks, we've been successful. Madison, Mississippi, everybody compares us to 0 short-term rentals. Richland, 0. Everybody compares us to Fairhope. They don't allow them in residential areas. Gulf Shores only has a certain zone. But I'll kind of go past since what we've been doing. One of the sticking points I have is allowing them side by side or within so many feet on the street. And I brought this up a number of times, and if we're going to go back and rewrite it, excuse me, Carolyn, if we're going to go back and rewrite this thing, I want to see that in there. I know what you're saying, I see the look on your face, but I'm sorry. Bobby brought up a point, I'm bringing up a point. I don't want to see them within 500 feet of each other in a residential area. So I want that brought up and discussed. There's some other things I brought up before I brought to you, and I'll kind of let that go away.
It sounds like this thing's going to have to be re-advertised.
Yeah.
With that many changes in it.
Those are not.
The overlay district can get you there in 2 weeks, but
the
other stuff
overlay
is,
district is, I was looking at it, it's literally one sentence, so it would have to be changed for that, but everything else, we're going to have to go back to the planning commission and start.
Yeah, we changed this thing 3 times since I've been sitting up here.
Well, the density zone, the only thing you're taking out is density.
Well, and
if you want to go back, I can live with that part of it. I'll just go one, but what you just mentioned is changing overlay and all
Just
the other
overlay.
zones. Yeah. The overlay, okay.
Strictly the hearing
I'm
process.
sticking with it. I want to see the 500 discussed in vote.
Okay. Just a thought on the density zone is what that would do is just, it doesn't change anything except it doesn't give it more rights or anything. It just encourages the same or supports the same distribution that happens naturally. When we first started this and over the last 7-8 years, that's the way it naturally happened, where the demand was in that density zone, and that's we didn't encourage that or guide it. So all it does is maintain that ratio, so that you don't have a great influx into these more outer areas that are more residential.
That's where I disagree with Mr. Cox. I think the density zone is going where we should go. But if we just throw it out and open it up to 115 across the community, I don't support that.
Well, you'll have more in the east end than you do in the density zone. You're just adding a whole nother
but not
process to this.
Per square foot or per capita, it's much less because the density zone is smaller. And if you have half of your total in that density zone, roughly, I think it's like 53%, then you're not going to have nearly as much the density, or you can avoid the side-by-sides, to some degree in the
So in 3 months, as development's moving east, the density zone's going to move east.
Yeah.
So we're going to be coming back and changing it because people are going to want this all the way to Bechtel. They're going to want.
But you can change.
So it's something you're adding to this process, and we're going to keep changing.
No. All it would do is you could look at the 2 zones separately. So if you saw that there was more demand or more appropriateness in the city rather than the density zone, you could increase that cap and leave the one alone so that you can control them separately. That's the point of creating the additional zone, is that you can look at those areas separately.
Well, we need to do this right. Like I said, a lot of communities don't allow them. Some of them have a lot more restrictions. These are commercial enterprises. I don't care how you put lipstick on that pig. This is commercial enterprises, and I think that I have a lot of citizens that I represent that don't want a period. And so I think and we can do a balancing act, and I think we need to go back if that's what we want to do, Mayor, and look at this thing again.
Then can we agree to leave the density zone where it is and just make the minor changes and move forward?
That's probably the best option at this point.
That's what that's, as the mayor said, an option, but if we are going to go back, then I'm going to stick with the request request of 500.
I mean, I think
Pick the feet apart, but I use 500 feet.
the STR ordinance has been hashed out so many times over so many years, and
Well, we
I
put a
feel
lot of
like what
time
we
in.
have in front of us is really close.
It representing the whole city is the reason I don't agree with it. I just feel like anybody in this city, if there's an opening available, should have an opportunity to fill that opening. But if that's what it takes to keep them having to re-advertise and do it, then I will, I'm only one vote anyway. You can vote the density zone in. But I really want the overlay district changed to where that is not a hearing process.
And from what I understand, that's something. we
I
can
would
go
agree
back
with
to
that
the-
100%. I agree
Yeah.
with
So
that.
that's the table.
I agree with
So I would like to table that portion and bring the overlay back, and I'll think about the density, but right now leave it like it is
Yeah, second
at
that.
115.
Okay, so is your motion changing or is it staying the same?
We'll leave density zone in
Okay, all right. So
for now.
the motion is to leave the density zone and do away with, or have use by right in the overlay district and the cap at 115. Is that correct?
Basically,
It's tabled to remove the public hearing.
Right.
Right.
we'll bring it back as is with that change.
Well,
Exactly.
it doesn't really say public hearing, it just says all other.
Right. I'll work with legal to find out what the exact, but I know what your intent is, so we'll bring back that revised version.
Robert, are we in?
If I could, I have some legal thoughts on this, because we
Okay.
all know the suit was filed against us by a person whose application we rejected for short-term rental. So because of that lawsuit, I had to withhold those comments until we're in executive session, but I do have some comments from
Okay.
council on this.
Okay.
So make a motion to table is okay at this time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to table. We need a roll call on the table? It's just no vote. Okay. All right, moving on. So,
Well, he made a motion to table it. There needs to be a vote. It
Vote,
doesn't
it's
matter.
not roll call.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is agenda public comment. Public's invited to address the board for up to 3 minutes on each, for a maximum of 30 minutes regarding issues listed on this agenda. If you want to speak to any agenda item, you can do so now. Please approach the podium, state your name and address. Okay.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I wanted to add one more thing, if that's possible.
Okay.
Obviously, in regards to the Airbnb and stuff, I would ask, since some reconsideration is gonna happen here, and from hearing some of the comments from other people as well, the cap being at 115, but I believe the waiting list is a little bit bigger than 115. Maybe you could try to accommodate, I understand the point of walking before you run, totally agree. And like I've said before, Ocean Springs has, implemented a great inspection plan, rules and regulations, hasn't had conflicts with the Airbnb, all the pros versus the cons of it. And why not accommodate the people who are already on the list? Why not try to accommodate those that are already on there? Because it's going to be another year before we're here again revisiting this, I'm sure. Probably. And like the gentleman said before, why treat some, because they got lucky and they got in line and they found out about the process and they got lucky to be on the waiting list, and just treating people differently. Why not try to accommodate those that you already have on the current waiting list? And then, next year, bring it back and discuss it again and see what kind of waiting list and so forth, and, walk slowly, if that's the case. That's all I ask.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address the board on any agenda item? Okay, old business, weapons policy discussion. Robert, you.
Yes. Chief Johnson and I have been working on that, and I've spent some time on that, and we would like, if you would, if the board would consider to pass it till the next meeting, we will have a recommendation. Correct, Mark?
So you want to table it?
Yes.
Okay.
I just have one question on that. I was reading over it, and one part of it, I think It says that if an employee uses their own personal vehicle during a workday, that they can possess a firearm in their vehicle. Is there anybody here, any employees that use their personal vehicles to perform city duties? You have a city truck, why would you use a personal vehicle?
Do something with my kids in between.
If I have a doctor's appointment, and I'm already halfway here, I don't go back to my truck, I'll do inspections in my vehicle. That's even the only times if I don't have a city truck at a doctor's office.
The policy is not to transport, children or family members in vehicles, so that's, sometimes they.
No, I get that, but when I read where it said that if in the event that a city employee uses their personal vehicle, then that's in there, so I just wondered what that meant.
We got something going on with this sound. I don't know what it is.
It's loud.
It's
loud. Kind of feeding back.
I don't know if it's somebody feeding.
Towards y'all more so that I can pick up your voices better.
Okay.
I think that the mics might be coming.
Maybe we're too close to each other or something.
You see what I'm saying?
Somebody told me that.
Okay, well, we need to adjust that next board meeting. We'll get through
the
it.
discussion anyway.
Yeah, this is just discussion.
I'm not a big fan of this, but I don't know what adjustments, if he would like to meet with all of us and hear our thoughts on the ordinance.
You want to, what we should recommend is that if you have some thoughts on the ordinance, get with Robert or get with Chief Dunstan and, give me a presentation with them.
I will send something out and say the thoughts on it, and it's our intention to next meeting have a policy for you to consider. But yes, that would be great. If you have anything, let me know.
All right.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Coney Window Project, executed contract. Sarah?
So, I'm asking to execute a contract with All Red Architects to do the windows for Tacony. Also on the agenda, you'll see where we're asking to advertise to do the roof at Tacony. So this will just be the second project for that facility, and it is desperately needed.
Yeah, we were going to take some of this out of our loan, Patty. Is that correct? And then we received some monies through the GCRF for additional work on Tacony, so it's going to allow us to not just do the roof and wait on the windows. It's going to allow us to do the roof and the windows at the same time and really seal that building up. So
we need a motion.
So we need a motion.
I'll make the motion to execute the contract with All Red Starsky on the Tacony Window project.
Second motion by Mr. Impey, second by Mr. Aldermen. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we've got a JCUA representative appointment up, and we're going to have a discussion on whether we go out for advertisement or reappoint Jerry Monroe, who has asked to be reappointed if it's of the board's opinion. So.
Mayor, my discussion would be to make a motion to go ahead and reappoint Jerry Monroe for JCUA board.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Impey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anybody have anything to pull from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I want to pull consent 8EE.
8EE,
I'm doing my best to find it.
accept code report.
8EE. I can summarize it if y'all want to look on 8EE. Look at 411 Holcomb.
Whoa, hold on. You're talking about accept code report through 27 of April?
I apologize.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to pull that EE out. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of
EE. 8E, got a motion by Mr. Impey, second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 8EE, Ken.
All right, there I'll summarize it on 8EE, 411 Holcomb. It states a slab without a permit, and in the second sentence, it's Public Works poured slab. I want to make a correction to that. That may make folks think that Public Works poured the slab at that house, and they did not. Public Works repaired a water leak underneath the driveway and poured a patched concrete
Back what we took out.
over the driveway. So that we'll remove Public Works poured slab and place in there the correction that they repaired a water leak under a concrete slab.
Okay. So we have a motion to accept the code with the correction that Public Works did not pour the slab, they just repaired a water leak.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Blackman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to department reports. This past last week, MDOT transferred the maintenance of the lights on the bridge. Our portion goes from the drawbridge to just about where Highway 90 splits off in front of Bacchus on the Bayou. All those lights that include the lights on the poles, the lights on the pearl lights that run along the bridge, and so forth. So we noticed the day that they transferred them to us that there was a section of them out. So they went back and fixed those for us. But anyway, we're looking at, Patty, you want to tell them, we're looking at some options on how to take care of this maintenance. The bill for the electricity is about $1,800 a month. There's some options on how to, a maintenance contract on what to do, maybe with Mississippi Power, or just handle them on a case-by-case basis. But we started that discussion and researching that today. So.
Yeah, when I get some more numbers or something, I may send it out, and just if you have any reply, you'll just reply direct to me to get your opinions on what you think we should do. Since we have the responsibility, and we may want to make a decision in the next couple of weeks, because the poles themselves, 2 poles and 2 lights took out on the Biloxi side the other day, and it was $28,000 to replace them. And so we're looking at different prospects, and you had to go back and change the numbers because there's like 323 of what I call the pearl lights underneath. I can't remember exactly the other, but
I can't remember either.
There'll be 2 or 3 different ways we can go with it, or we can just go alone and pay for the poles and the lights. The bulbs are warranted for 5 years, but putting them on and all, it's not warranted, just the bulbs. They're all LED. And like the mayor said, we now will have about $24,000 a year in the electric bill.
The bulbs are warranted for manufacturers, warranty only if lightning strikes or something hits them or whatever. That's not a warranty item on those lights. Unfortunately, it's a bad deal for the city. There's no question about it. This is a bad deal. MDOT's dropped on us, and but I guess that's what you have to deal with.
And there's not many companies that can handle repairing those lights either. I think
no, there's only basically
one truck on
really.
The coast that can do the
well, both companies, whether we go direct or we go with them, everybody we use Weaver. Weaver is the only one that owns the truck that goes to the side.
All right, that's just an update. Docket of claims. Does anybody have anything to pull from the docket of claims? Is there a motion to approve the docket of claims? Motion by Mr. Wade, second by Mr. Impey. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Accept the monthly budget report. Does anybody have any questions on the monthly budget report? Is there a motion to approve the monthly budget? Motion by Mr. Blackman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cox. All in favor?
Aye.
General public comments. The public is invited to address the board of up to 30 minutes each for a maximum of 30 minutes. Only 2 speakers will be allowed per side of each issue. Please identify yourself when you come to the podium. Okay, moving on to Mayor and Alderman's Forum. Alderman Altamont, Alderman Wade.
Out on Lamy Street in that cul-de-sac 213, there's a holiday, I would call it, underneath the slab or the sidewalk there. And the homeowner's just afraid it's going to keep washing out and it's going to be cracked again. So if we can get that taken care of.
Alderman Cox.
Good, Mayor.
Alderman Pena, Alderman Blackman, Alderman Empey. Okay, just a little recap. I want to thank Raven and the rest of the City Hall staff who worked tirelessly this past weekend. Was a success. The heavens smiled upon us too, which was kind of shaky there at one point. But the boiling on the beach, the crawfish competition, as you can see the trophy over there.
Jennifer won.
Yeah, well, you know, I got back at Mayor Hughes, you know, and Ocean Springs got the trophy. We had some good help. Alderman Wade was there. Deputy Chief, Fire Chief was there. So anyway, the fire department won the other trophy. So even with the absence of the chief, they you know.
Well, specific instructions.
She did. But Mr. Blackman represented himself well with his crew. So we had a really good time. It was a fun day, and everybody seemed to enjoy it. The night before, Friday at the Fort, the inaugural Friday, final Friday at the Fort, Dwayne Dupsy played. Nice crowd, very entertaining. We had all kind of people out there just, you know, saying how well they liked it, dancing and just cutting up. They really entertained the crowd. Wade was out there cutting the rug, so it was a good crowd. And this Thursday is National Day of Prayer at noon at the Civic Center, so if anybody can make it, I know they'd like to see the board and out there in full force. Anything else? Nothing. Okay. I need a motion to go into closed session to discuss the need to go into executive session.
We'll move, Mayor.
Motion by Mr. Cox.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wade. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Board is in closed session.
What time is it? National Day of Prayer.
Noon. Okay. This won't take long if y'all want to go back there. We can get out.
We're out. Braves are out.
I talked to that guy before, you know, anyway, I can tell you, yes, sir. I told him, I said, go to the decision.
Get you somebody to get along with.
It was good. No, we actually.
March 21st.
It was funny.
I mean, it's looking good, but. Maintenance went out for that.
It's probably just like a drink.
You ready, Vicki? I'm yes. I'm so tired. Are you tired? All right. Motion made by Bobby Cox and seconded by Rob Blackman to stay in executive session to discuss and update the annexation, the sands, and the roads litigation. And you can all go home.
Bye.
Yeah. What was I going to tell you? So I was going to tell you.
Turn off the air conditioning in this place. Freezing.
Well, Minnie had me turn it down. You got to take that jacket off. Ma'am, I'm going to bring it to you. Do y'all want me to turn it back?
You can do whatever you want.
No, we're fixing to leave.
Have to tell Crocker.
Like, I remember, I forgot that the attic still right now.
Yeah.
That out sweat.
It's cutting a rug. All right, I'll